Welcome to the Dinosaur George podcast, a show about paleontology and other earth sciences. Dinosaur George is a public speaker, author, and TV host with 30 years of study in paleontology. He has performed live in over 4,500 events across the US and Canada. Now, here is Dinosaur George.
Oh man, is it good to be back again. Holy smokes, have I been busy. This is episode number 123, and it's been a long time since I've been in here recording, so I'm glad to be back. I hope you guys enjoy this one. Man, I have been traveling absolutely nonstop. It has been nuts. Hey, listen, for all of you guys that are watching or listening on YouTube, I received a lot of contacts from you guys all asking, is there any way you could do a video podcast rather than just the audio? Because a lot of people prefer to really they like to see something happening, and I understand that. So in this episode, I'm going to give it a shot, see if you like it. Let me first explain. I cannot set up the camera directly in front of me, unfortunately, because the way this is laid out, I simply don't have room to get a camera behind this desk. So I'm setting the camera off to the side, which means I'm going to have to turn and face you guys this way. So it's going to look a little bit odd, and don't think I'm being disrespectful when I'm looking away from you, because all of my equipment is here in front of me. So don't feel like I'm being disrespectful and not looking. It's just that that's the only place I can put the camera. So sit back and enjoy yourself. This is episode number 123. And for everybody listening on the podcast, thank you all for joining us. First, let me tell you what's been going on, why it's been so long since the last time I was able to record one. It has been my travel schedule. My traveling museum is really taken off in popularity, and we're traveling nonstop. Sometimes 15, 20, 25 days at a time, we're on the road. And although I've got some equipment that I can travel with, and I could do some podcasts on the road, the audio quality is not very good at all. And for me, I would rather produce something that is good instead of something that's sort of decent. And so I apologize that I don't get in here. But I will say this, in the months of July, which this is July, I think today is July 16th, 2017. I think part of the month of July and a lot of the month of August, I've got a lot of time that I'm not going to be traveling. So I plan on doing as many of these as I can. I have a lot of good interviews lined up. Unfortunately for me, most of the paleontologists that I know and that I had lined up for interviews are going to be in the field, because this is the time of the year that they're gone. So it's an unfortunate thing. But the good news is that when they come back, I'm sure they'll have tons of new discoveries to share with us and lots of cool information. So I've been traveling pretty much nonstop with my traveling museum. It's been going absolutely everywhere. A couple of really fun things that I did. I did an event called the Allosaurus event. A young man named Alex from England. Alex and his family flew over here to the United States because Alex wanted to see the traveling museum, which was really cool. So I set up the museum just for Alex, and he and I met. Greatest young man in the world. This kid is so smart. Man, you talk about a kid that knew a lot about dinosaurs. Holy cow. But Alex is incredibly nice, good kid. So I set up the museum for Alex, and I thought, well, since Alex and his family came all the way from England, it would be good of me to set up the museum so he could see it. But then I thought, well, if I'm setting up the museum, why not invite the entire public? So we created what we called the Allosaurus event. We had 25 people come through in 2 days, tons of volunteers. Oh, I couldn't have done it without all of those volunteers that gave their time to come in. Thank the heavens above you guys came in and did that, because it really made the event successful. Had we not had you, it would have been crazy. But anyway, shout out to my buddy Alex, who he and his family made it back over to England. I've contacted or been in contact with Alex through email. So Alex, if you're listening, buddy, sure loved meeting you. You're a great kid and a good friend, and I'm glad to have you among my friends, and write to me anytime you want. Also, I'm doing the summer library tour. Every June, July, and August, I travel throughout pretty much Texas. And I speak at libraries, and what I try to do is encourage kids to read. And so I'm in the middle of the summer library tour. I've been touring a lot. I leave, I think tomorrow I leave, and I'm gone for another week or 2 weeks. So anyway, summer, that event is always a lot of fun, and I enjoy doing it. Now, this is fun for me. It's a job, but it's not a job. It's a vacation for me. Every year, except for last year, I wasn't able to do it last year, the folks at Jurassic Forest in Gibbons, Alberta, Canada, invite me to come do a couple of shows. They've got Jurassic Forest is this property that has not been overly developed. They created a bunch of walkways through it, and then they have life-size robotic dinosaurs outside all throughout this place. And so what you see is sort of what the environment would have looked like back then. It is an exciting way. You know, a lot of us have seen the robotic dinosaurs, and yeah, they're really cool looking, but they are, in my opinion, they never look real because they're not in the right setting. But at Jurassic Forest, they absolutely are in the right setting, and it is really, really cool. So I'm going there, and I'm going to be speaking August 12th and 13th, 2017. I know they'll be putting some stuff on their website. Their website is jurassicforest.com, JURASSICFOREST.com. That's jurassicforest.com. I know they'll be posting the times that I'll be speaking. So anybody up in that area, the Edmonton area and anywhere around there, if you get a chance, come by. I'm going to have some of my recording equipment with me, and I'll do some interviews. I want to interview some of you folks. So if some of you would like to come in and be part of the podcast, I'll interview you there, and then we'll put you on the we'll put you on the podcast. So please make it a point to come by, and if nothing else, just say hi, because that's always a lot of fun. And then this is the coolest. One of my good friends is a video game. What do you call them? Not creator. I guess creator is the term, but there's got to be a proper hip term. When you're as old as me, man, those ideas don't come to you. Programmer. That's a good word. He's a computer creator and programmer. He created a Dinosaur George game. It's so cool. You can go to my website, which is dinosaurgeorge.com, and click on the games page, and you can download it for free. You can play it for free. Now, there is a advanced level that if you choose to go that, I think it's $10, which is not very much. And then we give you an access code, and then you can get into the full game and do everything. But this thing is cool. You're kind of coming into my museum, and you are answering dinosaur-related questions to be able to advance and do a variety of different things. If you are a dinosaur expert or would like to become one, it's called Dinosaur George's Paleo Challenge. It challenges you to answer the questions before you can move on into the museum. So if you want to do something a lot of fun, go there, play it for free, download it. I think it works on some of the game controllers, and then of course you can load it onto your laptop or your laptop or your PC. But this thing is a lot of fun. I play it. I enjoy it a lot. So I hope you do it. While you're there, make sure when you check out my website, there's a lot of things. Oh, by the way, for all of you folks that write to me on the Ask Dinosaur George page, and today's podcast is nothing but Ask Dinosaur George questions. I don't have any guests because this is the first one I've been able to do in a while. So I don't have any guests lined up. For you, if you want to submit a question through the Ask Dinosaur George page, you need to go onto the contact button on my homepage. We made some changes to my homepage, and click on the contact us button, and then you'll see the Ask Dinosaur George page. And then there's a form where you can submit your questions. So yeah, while you're there, check that out. Also, if you want to call in and ask a question, you can call us at area code 210-888-9077 and leave your message, and I'll try to play your questions and answer them. It's not a toll-free number, but I'm desperately trying to figure out a way to create a toll-free number, because so many of you I know would like to call in and ask your questions, but you don't want to spend the money, and I don't blame you. Also, make sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You'll see links on my podcast page. The podcast page is dinosaurgeorgepodcast.com. And follow me on Facebook and Twitter if you'd like. And then finally, of course, I always ask you to visit my store, my catalog, which is store.dinosaurgeorge.com. If there's anything on there you want, I hope you'll consider ordering it for me. Okay, let's see. I think that we will take kind of a short break, and when we come back, I'll do the creature feature, which is Allosaurus.
Raptors are the most deadly dinosaurs that ever lived, and now you can own their replica claws, feet, and skulls. Imagine your own velociraptor skull, or the foot of a giant Utah raptor. Raptor hand claws and deadly killer claws are just some of the items you'll find in our web store. We accept all forms of payment and ship worldwide. Our pricing is affordable, and we don't charge outrageous shipping or handling fees. Visit our website at store.dinosaurgeorge.com and start your collection today.
It's time for our Feature Creature segment. If you would like to suggest a creature, go to dinosaurgeorgepodcast.com and post it in the comments section of this episode, or email us your suggestions to contact@dinosaurgeorge.com. And now, our feature creature.
All right, the feature creature today is my all-time favorite dinosaur, which is Allosaurus. I have loved Allosaurus ever since I was a kid. It's just always been my favorite animal. I mean, and let me explain why. You know, a lot of people ask me why do you like Allosaurus so much? Well, I guess the reason why I like it so much is when I was a kid, I had gotten some toys for Christmas. I had received some toys for Christmas, and one of the toys, I received dinosaur toys. One of the dinosaurs was the Allosaurus. One of the toys that was in that Christmas package was Allosaurus. And man, I absolutely loved that particular toy. To me, it was the coolest looking thing you've ever seen. Its pose was really cool. I never found it since. I've never been able to find that same Allosaurus since. But it was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life, man. I thought this thing is absolutely amazing. And so I kind of spent all my time playing with that particular toy. I just thought that toy was the absolute greatest thing in the world. So that's what I absolutely liked. I mean, that's what I liked. That's the toy I liked the best. So I played with it all the time. So Allosaurus became my favorite dinosaur. Once I had began to learn about Allosaurus, then for whatever reason, I just made an attachment to him, and he became my favorite. Now, Allosaurus, for those of you that may not be familiar with it, he was a big carnivore from the late Jurassic. It was about 12 meters long, and that's a little over 39 feet. That's a good big predator. And he weighed probably about 3 tons. Now, here's the thing that's interesting about him. Its remains have been found in Portugal, Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. And somebody once asked me, wait a minute, I can understand the Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming thing, but why then in Portugal? Well, the dinosaur, well, at one time, obviously, all the land masses were together, so animals could migrate and travel all these distances to what then ultimately became different continents because of the breakup of the landmass. Well, what happened is, imagine everywhere between the North American states that I just mentioned and Portugal, Allosaurus would have lived between those areas. It's just that during the separation of the continents, erosion has either buried what would have been those land masses that held the bone, or it may have eroded and uncovered them and they've weathered away. So what that means is the land masses were together, the dinosaur could walk between the two. But when the two separated, well, the spaces between what are the states of the United States and Portugal, all that area, there aren't any other places where we can find the right layer of sediment that might hold the bones of Allosaurus. So basically, that's why he's found in Portugal and then also here in the States. Same thing occurs with dinosaurs where we say they're found in Africa and they're found in Utah, and you go, well, my gosh, shouldn't we then also find them in everything between the two? Not necessarily, because the layers of sediment that hold their bones are not always readily available or visible to us, and therefore we can't necessarily find them. Now, Allosaurus is the most studied dinosaur in North America, maybe in the world, and that's because they know so much about him. So many Allosaurus fossils have been found, from adults all the way down to embryos in the egg. Man, that's pretty impressive when you think you've got this dinosaur that is so well known. We can watch every growth stage. So it turns out that my favorite dinosaur happens to be one of the most studied, and therefore more information is available on him. One of the things that I find fascinating when you look at an Allosaurus, one of the things you'll notice with its teeth, oftentimes you see its upper and lower teeth, and you see that one tooth is long, then the next one's short, then the next one's long, and the next one's short, and so on and so forth. Gives him that wicked looking smile. And I had somebody ask me once, well, how come their teeth aren't the same level? How come they're not level like our teeth? How come they don't line up? Reason why is two reasons. One is Allosaurus loses his teeth and replaces them like a shark. All theropods do this. They lose their tooth, falls out, new tooth grows back. And so if all of their teeth were the same length, then that would mean that most of them would be falling out at the same time, right? Because the teeth would be the same age. And because of that, you can't be a carnivore who survives off of the use of your teeth if half of your teeth are gone. So the ingenious thing about evolution is that it figures out how to work around that. And what it does is it loses them in different at different times. You have the long teeth sticking up with the younger teeth beneath and to the side. As these big, longer teeth are falling out, yes, they may fall out, but what that means is it's replaced now with another set of big, thick meat slicing teeth. And now in the place of the ones that fell out, you have the new ones growing back. And so what you have is you have this endless conveyor. Those big, long teeth fall out. They're replaced now by a new set. So that way the guy never, ever runs out of teeth. It's always got some good sharp ones. The sharpest ones are the ones being used the least. So consider the big ones as being the crushers and the blade-like ones as being the meat slicers. And then over time, as they wear, they become the crushers, and the big ones, or the smaller ones, become the meat slicers. So it's a never-ending chain. Now, it's not like sharks who have row after row after row. It's not like that. Like sharks' teeth are all constantly moving forward and growing forward and falling out. That's not the way theropods work. Theropods, the tooth grows from within the jaw and grows up and basically pushes the other one out. And it happens throughout their entire life. So Allosaurus, that's one of the cool things when you look at him and you look at his teeth. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now, it's not always one up, one down, one up, but usually it is. And that's indicative of how evolution has helped this animal to be able to always have a good set of teeth to be as effective a predator as he was. So I've loved Allosaurus since as a kid. Well, as I learned about Allosaurus, there was a man, a paleontologist named Jim Madsen. Now, Jim Madsen is one of the original guys that worked at the Cleveland Lloyd Quarry in Utah, where all those amazing fossils were found. Those amazing Allosaurus fossils and lots of other things, of course, Stegosaurus and Camarasaurus and those guys. But Jim Madsen, the more I read about this guy, the more I thought, man, this is the guy I want to meet. This is the guy I want to meet. And you always hear that famous line, don't meet your heroes, because sometimes you do and they turn out not to be who you've envisioned them to be. Not the case with Jim Madsen. He was the kindest man I ever met. I got to go to Utah and meet him. I met him on a number of occasions. I love this guy. He's so courteous and such a smart guy. Oh man, I could have spent a lifetime talking to him And he's talking about how they were unearthing the bones and talking about some of the new technology they came up with in order to catalog and keep track of all these finds, because they were finding layer after layer after layer of bones. And it was a fascinating thing. So Jim Madson's favorite dinosaur is Allosaurus. In fact, I think there's an Allosaurus Jim Madsoni now, or Madsoni, that they named after him. I don't know if that ever was finalized or not, but it needs to be. But anyway, so I got to meet my hero and I got to talk about Allosaurus, and that just about made my love of Allosaurus the absolute perfect thing. For me, it was the perfect thing. But there's only one thing that, in my opinion, was even better than that. And that was when I met for the first, I got to go dinosaur bone hunting. I went dinosaur bone hunting. And the first time I went, the very first time that I went fossil hunting, dinosaur bone hunting, the very first thing I ever saw in the ground, the first bone I looked at, the first thing I picked up that was dinosaur turned out to be a tail vertebra, a caudal vertebra from an Allosaurus. So that's fate, my friends. That's absolutely fate. I got to meet my hero. I got to study my dinosaur. I got to find an Allosaurus bone. First dinosaur bone I ever picked up was the caudal vertebra of an Allosaurus. Rest of him wasn't there. I didn't care. It was really cool. All right, I tell you what, let me get me something to drink real quick, and we'll jump into the Ask Dinosaur George questions. And so hang on, and I'll be right back.
It's time to Ask Dinosaur George. In this segment, George answers your questions about paleontology. If you would like to leave a voice message, call us at 210-888-9077. This is not a toll-free call, so children, please ask your parents' permission. If you would like to submit your question in writing, go to dinosaurgeorge.com and click the Ask Dinosaur George page. Questions are chosen at random and we clear all messages monthly. So if you have a question about paleontology, ask Dinosaur George.
All right, you guys, let's jump into it. I've got so many of your questions, so many questions that I just wasn't able to answer. So I'm going to get right into it. This first question is from Gautier from Lyon, France. I think I pronounced that Gautier. I think I pronounced that correctly. I hope I did anyway. If I didn't, please excuse me. Hello, I love what you're doing on the show, and I love your work. Thank you. That's very kind of you, Gautier. So I discovered that a lot of big terrestrial crocodiles lived alongside dinosaurs, and I don't understand how they were able to compete with them. Also, what do you think about French dinosaurs? Have a nice day. Well, Gautier, first let me tell you, I went over to France 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago or a year ago, and I absolutely loved your country. Loved it. Magnificent food, beautiful scenery, spectacular country. I hope to come back one day. Okay, how did these large crocodiles survive alongside of things like dinosaurs? Well, the way nature works, animals sort of divide up the food sources, the resources. Herbivores do it, carnivores do it. So, for instance, let's say, look at Africa today. You've got the tall animals like the giraffes and the elephants who are eating at a higher level than almost anything else. Well, anything else can reach. So therefore, they're taking advantage of a food source that is their niche. Below them, you have animals like rhinoceros and zebras and gazelles who are eating at a much lower level, a level that giraffes are not going to mess with. They just don't. They're not going to get down into that unprotected position to eat. They're going to focus on what suits them best. So the same thing goes with lions and cheetahs and that kind of stuff. You have lions that are preying on the bigger animals, but an animal like a jackal is not going to spend its time trying to do that. Well, in reverse, a lion is not necessarily going to spend a lot of its time trying to catch mice where a jackal can, because the food requirements are not as high for a jackal, so it can take advantage of a smaller food source. So with these crocodiles, they would do the same thing. The benefit of being a crocodile is a true reptile, which means they don't need the same amount of food intake as a dinosaur. Dinosaurs are not cold-blooded. Dinosaurs are running on a higher metabolism, and so they require more food. So first, you become a specialized hunter, meaning you do something very specific that is just right for you. It works for you. That's what these crocodiles are doing. It works for them. Now, even if they were terrestrial crocodiles and not necessarily aquatic crocodiles, they still found some sort of niche that allowed them to survive, even though they are competing with incredibly advanced animals as in comparison to them. And when I say advanced, I'm talking about body design, not in intellect or anything like that. So I think they found that niche within their environment to be able to take advantage of a food source that either the dinosaurs didn't take advantage of, or maybe like some of these big Nile crocodiles, they only got to eat once in a while, but when they got to eat a lot, like during a migration or something like that. As for French dinosaurs, Gautier, I don't know if I know that much about French dinosaurs. I don't. You know what? Why don't you send me some information on it and tell me some of the different things you've got there, because I would certainly love to know. But love your country. Thanks for writing. All right, Jeffrey from Fremont, California. Hello, Dinosaur George. How much power would a Ramosaurus headbutt contain? Well, Ramosaurus was this small deer-looking thing. I think it was an antelope, I believe. It's about 3 feet tall, not very big at all. And it's got relatively thin horns. Looks like a deer. For lack of a better description, it's a deer. I think it is Pliocene in age. Miocene or Pliocene in age, I believe. Here's the deal, Jeffrey. Those horns look to me to be very thin. Now, I've never seen the real skull, so I'm at all I've seen is images of the animal. So I've never seen the skull, but from what I can tell about it, those antlers or those horns, I think his are antlers. I think he sheds them and grows them back, I believe. Unless he's a pronghorn. If he is an antelope, maybe he doesn't shed them. Anyway, regardless, they look very thin. And that would mean that they were not designed for high-speed headbutting, say like a bighorn sheep or a Pachycephalosaurus. Those animals are designed for headbutting with a tremendous amount of force. This guy's antlers, to me, suggest that he's more of a pusher instead of a rammer. In other words, when he meets a rival, he doesn't lower his head with those horns and run and ram into each other. Usually animals with forward pointing horns don't do that because they can put out their opponent's eye as easily as their opponent can put out theirs. Instead, they're a little cautious. We watch white-tailed deer do this. They're a little bit cautious. They get up close, and once they get up close, then they lock those antlers, and then you begin to push and shove to try to see who's the strongest. And that, Jeffrey, is what I believe Ramosaurus did. For those of you that would like to see the animal I'm talking about, its name is spelled Ramoceros. Ramosaurus. It is a cool looking little deer-like creature. I don't know for certain what he falls into, what category, but he's definitely a deer-ish looking thing. Deerish. I don't know if that's a word, but I just made it up. All right, Alan from Oakhurst, New Jersey. Hello from New Jersey, Dinosaur George. Hey, Alan, good to hear from you. Alan says, I own and operate a walking dinosaur here in New Jersey named Crunchy the T-Rex. What a great name. If you're ever in the area and would like to collaborate on your appearances to include Crunchy, please don't hesitate to contact me. Hope you have a great summer. Well, Alan, thank you. That's very kind of you. I got contacted by a school up in New Jersey who might fly me up there to do a show or two for their students. So if I come up there, that might be fun to maybe see if they could bring you in as well. Alan, since you were kind enough to write, I'll give you a plug. Alan's website is www.njdino.net. NJ as in New Jersey, dino.net. Alan, I hope you pick up some business from this. I hope you and Crunchy are doing well. Please tell Crunchy I said hello. And maybe one day we'll collaborate. But thank you, Alan, for taking the time to write to me. All right, Craig from Edmonton, Canada. Hey, Craig, before I begin, I hope you paid attention to that first part. You know, I'm coming into Edmonton in August, and I'm going to be in your general area. I don't know if you have the ability to make it up to to Gibbons where Jurassic Forest is, but I hope you do. I'd love to meet you in person. So Craig says, I hope you're having a good day. And my question would be, what would happen if T-Rex was still around today? And the second one is, what would happen if meat-eating dinosaurs were bigger, faster, and smarter? Well, Craig, first, nice to for you to have wrote to me, and thank you. I am having a good day, and I hope you're having a good day as well. What would happen if T-Rex was still around today? Well, if T-Rex was still here today, he would have become considerably smaller, in my opinion. He would have evolved to be a much smaller animal because clearly the big megafauna, the really big animals, they've gone extinct on a number of occasions, and there wouldn't have been food source big enough to maintain that size. So I think evolution would have favored the smallest member of the family, and therefore the smallest member of the family doesn't have to eat as much. Therefore, the smallest member can pass his or her genes on to the next generation. And when you're little, you have a tendency to produce little offspring. And so I think we would see a downward trend of that dinosaur as he gets smaller and smaller. So I would say that if Tyrannosaurus Rex was here, it would probably be about the size of a large ostrich, maybe. It would still be, I think, a terrifying thing to see. I would love to see that. Can you imagine a mini Rex running around? We would name him Crunchy, and he would move to New Jersey. But that would be cool. I'd love to see that. Now, as for your question, what would happen if meat-eating dinosaurs were bigger, faster, and smarter? Well, the only way they could have done that is being bigger and faster and smarter is if the herbivores would have been doing that as well. Basically, evolution is like an arms race. There's an arms race going on all the time. First, you have plants at war with the environment. The plants are trying to figure out how to adapt to changing environments. They've got to figure out a way to adapt to a changing environment. Second, the plants are at war with the herbivores. They don't want to get eaten. So they got to figure out ways to stop that. Poison, spines, sticky stuff. All of that is an end result of an evolutionary adaptation of plants being able to adapt to their environment. So then the war is moved on to the herbivores. Now you've got them trying to figure out how to get around the plants' defenses while simultaneously developing how to deal with the carnivores that are trying to eat them. And so you have the development of horns and herds and better eyesight and speed and all that stuff. And then you have the predators who are trying to figure out how to get around the defenses of the herbivores. So those three things are lined up. So if meat-eating dinosaurs were bigger, faster, and smarter, it only would have been because they needed to be. So that would mean that they wouldn't have any other advantage over their prey because their prey had been doing it at the same time. Does that make sense? Do you see what I mean? If you've got to be the smartest carnivore because your prey is smarter than you, then only the smartest survive, and they pass those smart genes on to the next generation. So it's a catch-up game, but the plants are outsmarting the herbivores are outsmarting the carnivores, and that continues to go throughout time. It's happening today. And so I don't think you would see carnivores taking a big evolutionary leap ahead of anything. They wouldn't become super predators. They simply would be as effective as they need to be able to survive. So Craig, thank you for writing. I do hope you can make it up to Jurassic Forest when I come up there. I'd love to meet you in person. All right, Thomas from London, England. Hi, George. I was wondering what your thoughts and opinions are on the Australian Megaraptorid lightning claw. And I'd like to know your opinion on who would win in a fight between Murus raptor or lightning claw. Well, for those of you, let me get a drink. Hang on. Problem with yapping nonstop for a living is after a while your voice gives out. So for those of you who aren't familiar with lightning claw, it's a new Megaraptorid that was discovered in New South Wales, Australia. Hasn't been given a scientific name yet to my knowledge. I don't think it has anyway. But it lived during the mid-Cretaceous. It's about a 7-meter long dinosaur carnivore. Pretty impressive looking dude. So first of all, I think it's cool. I love them. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of those Megaraptorids. I find them to be really cool, kind of niche dinosaurs that are sort of filling the gap between the little raptors and the giant tyrannosaurs. These guys kind of are like the wolves. They're sort of the wolves of the time period. So I think it's really cool. Congratulations to the folks in Australia that found it. It's a great find. You know what else? I think I read where its bones were had been converted to opal, which is so cool because that happens in Australia. In fact, if you guys go back, one of my episodes, I interviewed a paleontologist from Australia who told us about the opalized fossils that come out of there. Man, I'd love to. Australia's on my bucket list of places I want to go. So I'd love to go see that. Okay, so anyway, Thomas, your second question, Mortis raptor or lightning claw? Not much is known about the dinosaur nicknamed lightning claw because they haven't found a lot of it. So I don't know if what we're looking at is a fully grown adult or not. See, Mortis raptor is estimated to be about 26 feet long. Now, lightning claw is 21 feet, Mortis raptor 26. But Mortis raptor, they know that it is not a full-grown adult, so it's still growing. So if you ask me who would win in a fight between those two, I have to base it on the information that I know at this time, and that would be, sounds to me like Mortis raptor is a little bit bigger, probably equates to more strength. So I would imagine he would probably be able to do it. For those of you interested in Mortis raptor, if you'll go back, I did a previous podcast. Let me find it real quick, just so you guys know which episode it is. It was episode 110. I did an episode on Mortis raptor and had the opportunity to interview Dr. Rudolfo Correa, who is as much of an expert on South American dinosaurs as you're going to find. And he talks a lot in detail about Mortis raptor. So go check out that episode, and I bet you'll enjoy it. All right, Thomas, thank you. Hope everything in England is sunny and not raining. All right, Paul from Chicago, Illinois. Hello, DG. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you can answer my questions. Well, Paul, I am. I hope you and your family and all your friends are having a great day as well. Paul says, my favorite dinosaur is Tarbosaurus, and I wanted to ask if Tarbosaurus would have been a tough opponent for a T-Rex if they were to meet up. Thank you for answering my questions. Well, Tarbosaurus and Tyrannosaurus, same family. In fact, I don't even know if Tarbosaurus is still the legitimate name or if it has now been changed to Tyrannosaurus bataar. But Tarbosaurus is the Asian equivalent to Tyrannosaurus rex, and everything I've read and seen about both is that it sounds like Tyrannosaurus rex may have had a size advantage, but they're basically the same basic animal. I saw a skull of a Tarbosaurus once that was bigger than the skull of Stan that I have. I have a replica, not the real skull. But I saw a real Tarbosaurus skull that, in my opinion, was bigger than Stan. This thing was enormous. And so it could very well be that these dinosaurs are the same size, which means you're pitting one giant against another giant who may be equally matched. So because your favorite is Tarbosaurus, Paul, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, but it would be Tyrannosaurus Rex. I think he's got an advantage, Paul. I think he does. But that's a killer dinosaur you like, and that's a good choice. All right, Barry from Edmonton, Canada. Another Edmonton. Hey, Barry, nice to hear you, buddy. And again, Barry, I hope you're paying attention. I'd like to meet you as well. Barry says, what was the hierarchy of pack hunting dinosaurs like Deinonychus? In my opinion, is the highest ranking member a male or a female that leads a pack? Well, Barry, behavior is not something that is necessarily fossilized. We can make a hypothesis about their behavior based on modern animals and based on the skeleton. So, for instance, if I find a skeleton of a Deinonychus, I can hypothesize it was a fast, agile, swift hunter. But I can't absolutely verify that because all I have are the bones. But it is a good, solid hypothesis based on the information that we have. Deinonychus is a dinosaur that is found in groups, so that's a good indication that if you're dying together, you're living together. So I suspect that they did hunt in groups. hang on a minute. I'm going to turn on one of my lights since I'm videoing this for YouTube. I want to make sure there's plenty of light. Hang on just a minute. All right, that may even be too much light, but anyway, if all of a sudden I get washed out, sorry about that, guys. Maybe I have to turn it down a bit. I'm being blinded. Hang on. All right, that's not so bad. Okay, so behavior doesn't fossilize, Barry, so we can't say with certainty, but what we can do is we can look at the fact that they are found in groups, so that's indicative of animals that hunted in groups. So I think pack hunting makes sense, and pack hunting improves your chances of success dramatically. The chances of making a kill are greatly improved when you work as a unit and a group, because that gives you the opportunity to attack bigger prey, to create ambushes, diversions, all of the things necessary. That's why wolves do it. Wolves hunt in packs, lions hunt in prides, but it's still a group, because it makes it more likely to be successful. Now, whether it's led by a male or female, in most groups today, or most packs today, it's always the male who seems to be in the hierarchy, but we have to keep in mind that we can't compare mammals to dinosaurs when it comes to behavior necessarily. We have to really look at the only living relatives of dinosaurs, which are birds. Birds are dinosaurs. And in the only group hunting carnivorous or predatory birds that I know of, it is the female that leads the group. In some of the different scientific studies, it suggests that the females would be the larger of the group as well. Taking those two things into consideration, my guess would be it would be a female that would be leading the group. That would be my best guess. I don't know. Plus, I don't want to sound sexist and say males run everything, because I don't want somebody picketing, coming in there and holding picket signs screaming that I'm a sexist. So, yeah, I think it's a very good possibility that the females are out there actually leading the group. Okay, Juan from Chicago, Illinois. Hey, DG, I'm a big fan. I love your work on Jurassic Fight Club. Hey, thank you, Juan. That's very kind of you, and thank you so much for the kind words. His question is, do you think dinos such as Australovenator and Cryolophosaurus had feathers? I think they would, since they lived in climates that were cooler. Well, Juan, that's using sound scientific hypothesis. You research their environment. You find that it was a colder environment, at least during the winter it was, and you then hypothesize that since carnivorous or theropods are being found with feathers, it only would make sense that they do. So I believe, based on your same ideas, they were. Now, how much of a feathering covering is always in debate. It's always debatable, and whether or not it is big feathers, who knows? If anything, probably covered in maybe a furry looking covering instead of big feathers. Maybe it would have looked like fur from a distance, but it may have been feathers. That's my best guess, and I base that off of where the animals lived and what kind of environment they lived in. So, Juan, good to hear from you. Thank you for writing, and I'm glad you like Jurassic Fight Club. It's very kind of you. All right, Jack from Belfast, Northern Ireland. You know, Jack, my family went to Ireland. I didn't go, but by gosh, I'm coming one of these days. Jack said, if not for competition from Smilodon, what do you think resulted in the extinction of Thylacosmilus? Wow, Jack. Man, you know, I had a paleontologist lined up to speak about Thylacosmilus, and then he bailed on me. He wasn't able to do it. I'd love to get him back, though, because I find that to be a fascinating animal. So what caused the extinction of Thylacosmilus, or anything for that matter? It's almost always that their evolutionary changes were successful for a period, but that either other animals advanced beyond them and they were incapable of keeping up with the changes that were occurring, or sometimes it can be other things. You know, it could be just as easily, it could be things like genetics. You know, we see that right now with cheetahs. Zoos are very, very careful about breeding and interbreeding their animals with other zoos because of genetic defaults. the breeding population has become so low that they are very susceptible to disease and to other problems because the gene pool is not big enough, and you don't have all the new integrating of other genetic markers from some of the other members. It could have been as simple as Thylacosmilus may have tried to advance into areas that were far greater than what it could populate. Think about this to make it simple, Jack. What about this? You've got a male and a female, and they have territories, but their territories are so far apart they never meet. And if there's not enough of them, they may never meet another member of their own species. And that alone could cause problems because you're not able to reproduce and repopulate at a fast enough rate to replenish those that are being killed by, let's say, something like Smilodon, or those that are killed during hunting, or those that are sick or weak. So you have to have a very strong core group to be able to populate. And sometimes it's not a matter of being outcompeted. Sometimes it's a matter of not being able to reproduce enough to be able to replenish the population. It could be something that simple, Jack. But if I'm able to bring that paleontologist back on, I will absolutely ask him if he can maybe answer that with a little more certainty. All right, Maxwell from British Columbia, Canada. Boy, you people from Canada have been writing in lately. DG, I'm having trouble finding out what species of dinosaurs coexisted with Carnotaurus. Could you please name 5 or 6 of them? P.S. Allosaurus is my favorite dinosaur too. Nice choice, Mr. Maxwell. That's a great choice. Okay. Carnotaurus, it comes from the La Colonia Formation, which is a formation in South America. But I went and I tried to find some information for you. Man, I couldn't do it. I found that they mentioned hadrosaurs and ankylosaurs and sauropods, but no mention of the particular species of what they were. So I don't know. I don't know who would have lived. If I can ever capture Dr. Curry or Dr. Holtz, I'll ask them if they can maybe give us some more information, because they would certainly be more familiar. Unfortunately, I just don't have an answer for you, Maxwell. I'm so sorry. And the fact that you like Allosaurus makes me feel even worse that I don't have an answer for you, but I'll keep looking and I'll try to find it. All right, Harrison from Rochester, New York. I was wondering if you could do a podcast on Maposaurus. I think it's a very interesting dinosaur and I'd like more information as it relates to Giganotosaurus and its eating and hunting habits. Thank you, Harrison. Good suggestion. I love Maposaurus. And when I did that interview with Dr. Correa, he was so kind and pleasant. And after we got off after I discontinued it, we chatted by phone, and he seemed very eager to want to participate in another one. And I don't want to abuse my friendship with these folks and get them on over and over and over again. But man, when you have a lot to say and you know a lot, they're the right people to be able to get on. So I will try my best to see if I can get him on, Harrison, and maybe get him to tell us a little bit, since he would be much more knowledgeable than I am. All right, Mohammed from Edmonton, Canada. My gosh, you guys from Canada amaze me. Again, Mohammed, remember, I'm coming up there in August. Would love to meet you and your family and like to maybe do an interview with you where you can ask questions on my recorder, and then I'll play it on my podcast. Okay, so Mohammed says, I heard that many people say Spinosaurus only ate fish. But in my opinion, Spinosaurus is just too big to only eat fish. And I think it hunted on land as well as in the water and also ate other dinosaurs. I completely agree, Mohammed. I agree. There are not many specialized hunters, meaning they only eat certain things. Those that are often small. If you only eat termites, you're not going to grow as big as a lion, because you simply cannot get enough food in a day to maintain your mass. Same with fishing. Bears are great fishermen, but they cannot survive solely on fish. Now, a bear and a Spinosaurus have no relationship whatsoever. I'm just using them as an example. So to your point, Spinosaurus is so massive, of course, he's got to eat more than fish. So where did this idea that they only eat fish come from? Well, it comes from discoveries of fish scales and vertebra in association with the skeleton. And that would suggest to some, well, that's what he ate. There it is. Well, think about this. If you eat a fish, you're going to swallow the entire fish, meaning scales, which don't digest quickly, and bones, which don't always digest quickly. If you're going to eat something big like another dinosaur, you're not going to eat their bones. You're simply going to eat their flesh. And that means it digests and dissolves and is gone, leaving no evidence. So if the only evidence you have are fish scales, you can't imply that means he only ate fish. No, what that means to me is those scales are the only thing that survived the fossilization process within the gut, because all the meat that it ate, all of the soft tissue is gone. So I agree with you, Mohammed. I believe that these dinosaurs were great fishermen. They're built for it. But I think, Lord help you, if you were a smaller herbivore and you were anywhere within striking distance of Spinosaurus, because he is going to hunt you down and have you for lunch. All right, Peter from London, England. Man, we are bouncing all over the planet today. Peter, great to hear from you. Peter says, George, I have 2 questions for you. First one, why did Baryonyx have a bigger killing claw than Spinosaurus? That's interesting. Question number 2, what is the best way to store my Spinosaurus bones so that they don't break? Thank you for your time and keep up the good work. Thank you, Peter. Very polite of you to write to me. All right, to your first question, why did it have a bigger thumb spike? Again, I believe that things like that are an indication of a special purpose. Why did raptors have a bigger curved claw? Because it was a better weapon to be utilized than the smaller ones. Why does Triceratops have big horns? Well, I think they served a very good purpose. The bigger they were, the farther away you keep your enemy. So why did Baryonyx have that bigger claw than a Spinosaurus? Well, Baryonyx isn't as big as Spinosaurus, and maybe he used it as much for defending himself as he did for killing other prey. See, Baryonyx is big, but he's not a Spinosaurus-sized dinosaur. And so if Baryonyx is living with some really big carnivores, he better have the weaponry capable of making sure he doesn't become a meal. So it may have been an effective tool for catching prey, but it also may have been a good visible weapon that it sends a signal to everybody, are you sure you want to mess with me? So that's what I believe, is that it may have had dual purposes. Now to your other questions about Spinosaurus bones. For any of you that have fossils, the 2 things that cause problems with fossils is, one is the oil from your fingers. When you pick up your fossil, you have oils on your hand. They will stain the bone. They don't necessarily hurt the bone, but they stain the bone. You really want to train yourself. Go out to a hardware store and just buy some of those white gloves those cloth gloves that people used to work in the garden. Use those to pick up your fossils. The main thing that hurts them is, and it's always along with picking them up, it's when you're handing your fossil to somebody to see, that's when it gets dropped and broken. I would suggest you simply allow people to look at your fossils, but if you're going to let them hold them, don't take it and hand it to them. Have them pick it up off the shelf themselves. Chances are they have better control, because what happens is when somebody hands you something, you're almost timid to take it for fear you're going to break it. And that's when it gets dropped. If you pick it up, you can pick it up gently, but you're in control of it from start to finish. So that would be something I would suggest to everybody. Now, as for what you can do to make sure that they don't break, you can look at some of the different polyurethane varnish and lacquers that you can paint onto the bones. But the downside to that is they all will change the appearance of the fossil. So some of you never want to use a high gloss, because that almost looks plastic. It almost looks like it's encased in plastic. You definitely want to use a satin finish or a flat finish if you can find one. But over time, those products can have a tendency to turn yellow. And so it may give your fossil a different appearance. But it will certainly give it stability, especially if it's very breakable stuff. I would always recommend buying a shadow box. That is a box with a cover and that white, not foam, but almost cottonish backing. That way your fossil is supported. You can pick up the thing. You can look at it. It will support the fossil. That's the number one best way. So I would just be very careful with it. All right, Alexander from San Antonio. That's my hometown, by the way. Alexander, nice to hear from you. Would the prehistoric oceans, such as the late Cretaceous ocean, look any different than the ones we have today, or would they look identical? Alex, interesting question, buddy. They would look identical in the idea of you'd see crabs and shrimp and fish, but the difference would be the species would look dramatically different. Not all of them, but some of them definitely. Much more teethy fish during the Cretaceous. More of them. Big teeth. Big like Encodus and Pachyrhizotus and who else? Cephactinus and those guys. They all have really, well, Pachyrhizotus has little teeth, doesn't he? Yeah, so forget him. But Cephactinus doesn't. I think you would have seen more enormous teeth. And then, of course, you would have had the giant swimming reptiles, which would have looked different as well. But as for the corals and the starfish and the urchins and the crabs, no. I don't think if you scuba dive during that time, you would see something that would look like a foreign world. I think some of the things swimming by would look different. Some of the things swimming towards you would look different. And that would be the only thing you wouldn't want to do. All right, let's take one more. This is from Mohammed from Oslo, Norway. Hey, Mohammed, nice to hear from you. First, how fast can ornithomimus run? Can they run as fast or faster than an ostrich? And two, who would win in a fight between Giganotosaurus or Spinosaurus? My opinion, Giganotosaurus would overpower Spino. Okay, how fast can any dinosaur run is always a difficult question because all we have to go on are its skeletons and its bones and estimating its muscle mass and estimating speed off of that. And that's a difficult thing to do. So scientists use a tremendous amount of research in trying to figure out answers to those questions. I've seen estimates that range between 15 and 35 miles an hour, and that's fast. And that's ostrich speed. Certainly, I think it could run as fast as an ostrich, if not faster. I think some of those guys may have been able to exceed considerably because their legs are so much longer and they don't have a whole lot of body mass to carry. So I think they would have been very fast. I think maybe 20 miles an hour would be a good estimate for a cruising speed, but they may have had bursts of speed of upwards of 30, which would be crazy when you stop and think about that. And then as for your question about Giganotosaurus and Spinosaurus, yeah, two totally different dinosaurs. Giganotosaurus being better suited for confrontational battle. Spinosaurus, maybe not so much. And then really the only weakness of a Spinosaurus is his elongated snout. Just doesn't have the stability of a shorter bulldog head. That's really the only weakness I can think of. Boy, I tell you, it would be an amazing thing when you stop and think about it. Whichever one would win, I don't know. It would be absolutely crazy. All right, listen, you guys, I hope that you have all enjoyed this particular podcast. It's been a lot of fun. It's great being back behind the microphone, and I plan on doing as many of these as I can coming up in the future. For all of you guys, check out my website at dinosaurgeorge.com. Remember, the Ask Dinosaur George page has now been moved under the Contact tab, and if you want to call us, you can call us at area code 210-888-9077. Please follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You'll see links on my podcast page, which is dinosaurgeorgepodcast.com. Visit our online catalog at store.dinosaurgeorge.com as well. I hope you guys watching on YouTube like this new format. If you do, please let me know. I do know that for some of you that only listened on the podcast through YouTube, this is going to be a much bigger file and you may not be able to access it as well. So please, again, just everybody give me your opinions on whether you like this or not. And if you do, I hope you know. Okay, until next time, everybody, remember, paleontology is a science that consists of facts and opinions. You may not agree with the opinions of others, but you can be respectful when voicing your dissent. Make your point, explain it, and then be willing to listen to others. You don't have to agree with them, but at least you can be kind and try to be as good a person as you can. Until next time, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed everything that we did on this new format, and I hope that you'll all come back and listen again very soon. Take care, you guys. Have a great one.
Thank you for listening to the Dinosaur George Show. Please follow us on our social media links and join our mailing list. If you're interested in having Dinosaur George speak at your event, please visit our website at dinosaurgeorge.com. Until next time, keep digging for clues about the past.